Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Reverend Charlotte McGinnis, and I want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining me and my good buddies here, who you're going to meet in just a minute, for my Heart to Heart Soulful Conversation series. This is the first of an ongoing program, which will be every Wednesday afternoon on my website, charlottemcginnis.com, on Facebook, Reverend Charlotte McGinnis. Facebook.com/Reverend Charlotte McGinnis, and YouTube.com/InspireUTV. So that being said, we're going to have a lot of great people on the show. If anyone out there would like to be interviewed to talk about anything, I call it real conversations with real people, because everybody has a message and a treasure to share with the world. And I'd love to help you do that. So today, I'm really excited that we are able to open up our heart-to-heart conversation with a conversation about an awesome lady. And this woman, I think we can all agree here, changed our lives for the better and was definitely a huge force for change and good, not only in our lives, but in the lives of everyone she knew and everyone she touched. And this woman, her name was Reverend Dr. Barbara Hanshaw, and she was the co-founder of the Alliance of Divine Love Ministry. And she and her good friend, Reverend Dr. Barbara Selwa, 51 years ago in Florida, had this great inspiration to start our beloved ministry, which we are all ordained in, by the way. And they brought something through that was so powerful and so healing that we have had over 2,200 people ordained in the history of our ministry. And we are continuing to bring new ministers in and serve the world in all we do with the greatest degree of love. That really is our mantra, choosing the greatest degree of love in all we do. So Reverend Dr. Hanshaw, I think I'm going to start because I have a funny story. Many of y'all know that in Florida in 1993, I founded the Palm Beach Center for Living. It was a spiritual community. We did a lot of community service outreach to men, women, and children, predominantly in the HIV/AIDS community, but far reach beyond that as well. But anyway, after about a year in that center, there was a group of people that were actively engaged in the Palm Beach Center for Living who did healing work. They did Reiki, they did healing touch and various and sundry types of healing. And they were looking for a way that could make them legally protected to do their healing work, to lay hands on people and to do the spiritual healing that they were so blessed with. So somebody in our group found out about ADL, Alliance of Divine Love. And they said, come on, let's go check this out. And so I said, what the heck? So me, and there was 8 of us actually from the Palm Beach Center for Living. We all show up at Reverend Dr. Hanshaw's house. She lived down in West Palm Beach at that time, and walked in, and it was filled, I think you all remember, with crystals as big as I am. I mean, from little to huge, beautiful crystals and stones and beautiful angels. And it was a little bit overwhelming, I have to say, but I said, okay, well, this is interesting. And there was the 8 of us and another 4 people in the group. And so all of a sudden out comes Barb, and she was a woman with a huge aura. And she came out, and in her fashion, she was a little disheveled and, licking her fingers in the papers. And she's like, okay, sign in here every week, put $20 in here. And just and I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is crazy. This is not for me at all. But I sat there through the class, and at the end of the class in the car, I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. And somebody, I believe it was Claudia, or Judy, or maybe Ellen, I can't remember, said, oh, come on, let's give it one more try. And thank God I listened and did, because from that next week on, I literally fell in love with this woman, took her into my heart as a one of my greatest friends. She was such a impactful being in my life. And strangely enough, not strangely, she does come from my neck of the woods, Huntington, West Virginia. And
Wow.
so we bonded on that. And she just was with me. After my ordination, I had served on the Florida chapter board and worked with her on many projects and conferences. And went to her house, and we just used to just love hanging out with her. And I know a lot of you were part of that process. So I'm going to get in a little more about my story with Barbara, but I want to listen. I'm going to start with you, Sandy. And how did you connect with Barbara? How did you find ADL? What was your experience of Barbara when you first met her?
Well, I was just thinking, when I first met Barbara, it was to take the class. But when I moved to Florida, to West Palm Beach in 1980, I was looking for a bookstore, an esoteric bookstore. And I found the Tomas's place,
Right.
Rainbow Bridge. And it was down on Clematis Street.
Right.
I don't know if y'all remember that.
Oh, sure.
And right in the same building was an astrologer that taught classes, Jackie Millspaw. I don't know if you remember her, but she was like a really good astrologer. And I studied astrology with her. And, so I studied astrology over the years. I mean, I studied it for 30 years before that, but I never took classes. I just read books and so forth. And then I actually took classes from astrologers that did all the math. You had to do the math at one point to calculate somebody. Yeah. So she's the one that told me about ADL. She was already, I don't think she's a minister anymore, because I think she moved away, the area. And she told me about it. And I went there. And I took the class. It was this Ware Avenue. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, Ware Avenue. Good
And
memory.
the purple room with the purple everything.
And white room. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I went, but she didn't have as many crystals back in 1985. This happened into the purple room after I went. So it wasn't, when I started, it wasn't a purple room. And that was later. Anyway, and so I went basically to what I call learning about the invisible world. I wanted, things were happening to me. I was seeing things in my dreams. I had visitors. I was getting all these experiences. I took another class about all these, I don't even know what it was called anymore. And anyway, I had all these experiences going on, and I just needed some answers to some things. So I went there just for that reason. In my class was a lot of people who needed a license because they were tarot card readers or astrologers and so on and so forth. And at the time, West Palm Beach, it was $500 a year for a soothsayer's license. And that's what these people had to purchase to practice what they did. So you become a minister, and then that didn't happen. So, but I was just there for the info. Okay. When I was ordained, well, actually, that was one person. Now that you mention it, Carol Owen also was in a meditation class with, now she lived in Old Port Cove, and she just passed a few years ago. She was my meditation teacher. And Laura, her name was Laura. Her husband was like ran Old Port Cove, and Kim. The names are escaping me. I apologize. So so Carol Owen is the one that told me about it too. So I had it from Carol Owen and Jackie Millspaw is how I got involved with ADL. And then when I got ordained, I didn't even know I was a minister. I remember they gave me this form that you're supposed to do the EIN thing. And what is this? I never did it until I became a mentor a few, years ago. But so that was my whole story.
Well, that was amazing. And some of those people, yeah, Carol Owen and gosh, when you said Tomas at Rainbow Bridge, he used to scare me. He never smiled much, at least when I walked in. And it was kind of like, but what a great store. What a good memory you brought in there, Sandy. But
And I remember a lot of my class members, and it was a large class. And I think the course was only like $90.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah.
And I still have the books somewhere. I was going to look for them. Yeah, the blue books or whatever, the green or blue books.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so that was, and Barb, she was a powerful person. And I remember that when I was done, we had an internship, of course, and I was a teacher. And then you had to consult with her. And so we had this astrology group. So it was basically me and all the people that were really senior members. Most of them aren't even here anymore. Used to meet once a month to do charts.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was fun. Well, you were in before us, 10 years before me. Ellen and I got ordained in 95, but it was definitely a different animal then. It was really a close-knit community and very powerful and deep and fun. And Barbara, yeah, powerful was a great way to say it. Peg, you have many great memories of Barb. You and Lori were her right hands for many years. I know you both worked with her closely, and I know you've got a fond place in your heart for Barb in many ways. So what are your thoughts? What year were you ordained? How'd you find ADL? And all that good
I
stuff?
was ordained in 2000. I started taking the class with Lori. Lori found the Alliance of Divine Love. And you'll have to tell me if you remember how you did that, Lori, but she told me I started going to her class, but I was working at night and I couldn't go to her classes. I think when I was taking the classes, I don't remember what it was. I was rolling out some software program, and it was always something. And I like to work evenings because I didn't have to deal with the upper echelon, managers, I just worked with the people and I love working with people. And my fondest memory with Barbara is it's our friendship. We used to go out for barbecue every Wednesday. And it was just, when I wasn't working nights, it was kind of a Wednesday barbecue night. And it was how she treated people and her whole attitude on living in existence. Barbara treated people with the highest regard and respect until you crossed her. Don't cross her. She was a sweet, she would have given, if somebody said, I need a shirt, she would have taken that shirt off of her body, given it to them if they really needed it. That's the kind of person she was. Her heart was full. She had a lot of energy. She worked all night too. So we kind of sometimes just, when I was working at night, I'd call her on the phone when I was bored, just watching all the systems, and she'd be up working on a computer. We'd have our conversations at like 1 o'clock in the morning where other people wouldn't be because I was working nights. But,
Right.
yeah. So we have, I have so many fond memories. So I got ordained in 2000. I came back and finished the class in 2000. My class was, there was a lot of good people in my class, and there was a lot of good people in Lori's class before. So our classes, I was April, Lori was December, I think. Oh, so I'll let Lori talk.
Yeah, well, Peg, one thing that I do want to mention, because I'm part of the purpose of this interview is to share our memories and inspiration that we had from Barbara, but she was an amazing woman. And, when she was basically the co-founder of the ministry, and Dr. Selwa was I believe, the one who had the inspiration, received the message, and Barb Hanshaw was the one who made it happen. And they were a match made in heaven. And, Barb really ran this organization, beautifully. And we had a lot of ministers on board at the time. She managed it with effortless accomplishment is a way I would say it. And she was just able to keep everything in order. And she brought people in like Lori to be her assistant and help her out. But on top of that, and I think we all know how it's not an easy task to run something like this. And she had over 1,000 active ministers at one time, and she was somehow keeping it all going. Well, on top of that, she just so happened to work at her daughter's and son-in-law's AC business. She was the bookkeeper for them. So she had a full-time job and ran, that was Ewing and Ewing AC, air conditioning. And they basically, she ran the books, did the books, and it was a big company. So Barb she was something. I mean, she was a smart lady and a hard worker. So that too begs for a little bit of applause there for Barb, what she was able to pull off. Yeah.
She was amazing.
She was amazing. Yeah. Well, Lori, I know you actually worked with Barb, for ADL, and I know you have lots of beautiful memories and a beautiful picture that I hope you'll share with us. It's you just showed it to us before the meeting, so.
Yeah. Well, I was ordained in December of 1999. And the way that I came upon the Alliance of Divine Love, like many of you, I had gone to the Rainbow Bridge. I also went to Margaret's store down in Boynton.
Crystal Garden.
Crystal Garden, yes, correct. And I took Reiki classes down there, and she was telling us what the legal parameters were to do Reiki and healing energy. And after I heard the Alliance of Divine Love 3 times, I said, okay, that's it, And I met Barbara and went through her class. And at the time, Peg and I lived in the same neighborhood. She lived right around the corner from me. And I'm like, hey, you got to read these books. You got to. And we would kind of do lessons together. And I was just in such awe, of the classes and spending time with Barbara. She was a very bright light. After I was ordained, Barbara, interestingly enough, and how intuitive she is, out of every class that she had, she'd pick like one person to say, hey, come and volunteer. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So one day she said, well, Lori, come on to a board meeting. So I did. Well, by the time I left that board meeting, I was working with her.
Wow.
The things that I remember about Barbara, working with her for 5 years, Barbara, I'm going to share this with you. Barbara, it was Reverend Dr. Barbara Jean Martin Hanshaw. She was born September 19th, 1930, and she made her transition May 29th, 2011. And this has got to be one of the most beautiful pictures of Barbara Hanshaw, my mentor, our mentor.
That is so beautiful. Wow.
Beautiful. Looks like a painting.
During her class, and I think she shared this pretty much with every class, that really stuck with me. And you can all relate to this. Going through the 3 books, book 1, book 2, and the ministerial book, you almost live the lessons as you're going through them. And some were more difficult than others. Some brought, your stuff kind of up to the front. And Barbara would say, oh, those interesting evolutionary experiences. And she wanted you to look at each challenge that you were having as an interesting evolutionary experience. It was an opportunity to demonstrate your mastery in focusing on love. And Barbara was. How she held it together as I'm working with her many times, a couple of stories. As Peg said, she worked all night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. She's sending me emails, of course, and I'm asleep. I was more of a morning person. There were many times that Barbara would talk to me when I'm sleeping, telling me what I needed to do the next day. So I would get up and I would know, okay, I'll do this, do this, do this. And then she'd call me at 12 o'clock. Couldn't call her before 12 o'clock in the morning, right? We all knew that, about sweet Barbara. And she'd call and I'd say, no, I got it done. I said, you told me last night. She says, what? And I'm like, yeah, you come to me in my sleep and you tell me what to do for the next day.
Oh, wow.
It was always fun. This is another picture I have.
Oh,
of Barbara.
wow.
That's a beauty.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if you see these pictures in person, she has the most beautiful twinkle in her eyes, and more so when she smiled. She just loved everyone. There were times that I'd be working at the desk next to her and I'd look over and she'd be staring at the computer. And what I realized she was doing, she was going through the minister's list and focusing and picking up. She was so intuitive. And she would find that maybe there was a person that needed a kind word or that was struggling financially. And the next thing she'd be doing, it would be pulling out her own personal checkbook and sending them a check, or giving them a call for encouragement and sending love. And that's the way she was, And my one last funny story about Barbara, when she was cremated and buried at sea, she had 4 daughters, and I was blessed enough to be invited out on the boat and after we had scattered her ashes and everyone was all emotional and we were all saying just the most wonderful, beautiful things about Barbara, one of her daughters, and we all got our glasses out to toast her, and one of her daughters raised her glass and said, yeah. And she talked kind of rough. She goes, yeah, we all love Barbara and we all have good memories, but come on, people, she was cantankerous. And we just cracked up. Everybody just started laughing because we knew that at times Barbara could be cantankerous, but it was love. It was all love. It was it was a wonderful time for me to spend with her and share my memories with you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Lori. And what a treasure to be able to work side by side. And I'm sure it was not easy all the time because, God love her, you, like Peg said, you didn't want to be on the wrong side of Barb. That's for sure. But in the end of the day, she was the most loving and generous. That's a memory I have of her too, her generosity. Mm-hmm. The last few years, she did her classes at the Palm Beach Center for Living, and she was beyond generous with her contributions to the Palm Beach Center for Living.
Wow.
She was amazing. And she didn't have to be, but she was. And she was just, that was Barb. And so, yes, she was a living example of love for sure. And Arlene, I know you have a million stories yourself.
Not a million,
Yeah.
but Lori, what years? I don't remember you working, Barbara. What years was that?
It was 2000 to 2005.
Was Peg working with her too then?
No, I had a real job. Not that Lori didn't have a real job. Not that Lori didn't have a, because you know what, that job, With people,
I see.
she worked
Well,
Lori worked very hard.
Oh,
both of them
yes.
Very hard. They
And
really
that-
did.
yeah, I don't, well, I'm number 1422. I don't remember the year. It's on my card. You want me to go look? What
No,
year?
that's okay.
You could look me up.
Yeah.
But anyway, what happened to me, like most of us, it's a long story how I found my way to the Center for Living, but Ma Jaya directed me there, that this wonderful woman, Charlotte, needed help to go to the county home. And I would love to be part of her center. So I showed up there, and in the times that I came, across the way was the Band of Angels with Judy Lynn Ray and Marilyn Scherf. And what was his name?
And
The-
Tommy and Ellen. Ellen was one of
Tommy,
Ellen
yeah.
founded the Band of Angels with Judy.
She did?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
So I had just moved to Jupiter, Florida. I had just lost my mother. I think it was like 1988, and left New York and moved to Florida to help take care of an aunt. So my whole life had changed, and I love the Center for Living. And I was hearing about, Barbara's classes, but then I went to Judy and Marilyn and they worked on me, and I just started crying, and I said, whatever you did, I want to learn how to do that. And so I became a Reiki master with the three of them over like 2 years. And that was wonderful. And then there was the story of how you couldn't work unless you had a massage license or a ministerial. So through Charlotte directed me to Barbara, and I never saw Barbara in a bad mood in my life. But there were only 3 of us in the class. I don't remember, the other 2 were friends and myself. So I got to spend all that year with Barbara and 2 others. It was just a wonderful, and of course, I wrote down before you said it, life is an interesting evolutionary experience. I had it put on her button because that was what she said, that was like magic, You're right, Barbara. And all I knew, don't call her in the morning. Never. I think Peg said, no, you don't call Barbara in the morning. So what I also knew about Barbara is that she cried at every ceremony. With
Yes.
every rose, she just broke out in tears. And at my ceremony, Lori gifted me with my shawl. Thank you, Lori. You
Aw.
remember that? She gave me my shawl. And that was that. The ceremony was just wonderful. And every ceremony I've been to ever since is always with Barbara and her, here, take this rose with you. And the time we had a convention and she was released from the rehab center, and she took the mic and said, thank God I'm out of that freaking place. Thank you for bringing me here. I've had it. And I think I don't remember what picture came, but I don't know how I ever found this one. Was in my camera. Remember this one?
Oh, sure. That's a beauty. Yeah.
And it
that's-
was
yeah.
given at her memorial service. And it says Barbara's memorial service and a message from Barbara in the back.
Wow.
I gave that all to you at the convention, and a button. My friend Norma made the button, you see. And so Norma says to me, I can't get that white spot out of there. I said, don't, please don't take the white spot out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole meaning of the picture. Yeah, exactly.
She
Oh,
goes, well,
God.
it must have been in the camera. I said, no, it's with Barbara. So she wrote that message. Life is an interesting evolutionary experience. So you all got that button.
Yeah, we got those buttons, and that was a sweet, sweet gift. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you.
So Barbara, I never saw her up just when she was released from the, rehab. And I never heard her complain or, she was just, the other thing I remember about Barbara, there were a few people that were involved with the Center for Living and Barbara, and they ended up living in her home.
Mm-hmm.
She took people who needed a place, not just once, but a couple of times.
Yeah.
Some came back. Some needed a lot of help, but she helped them all and never complained about it.
Yeah.
They lived in her house with her.
Yeah, I know. I remember. And she was something. That's for sure. So generous. Yeah. And well, thank you, Arlene. Well, Sandy, back to you. What is, Peg's got her hand up. What were you going to say, Peg?
You know what I really enjoyed about Barbara? Do you remember the conference where Joseph was doing the flowers? And we had Catherine C.
He did all the flowers at all the conferences.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Beautiful, gorgeous work. But he was telling us, he was doing his whole thing about how to do it spiritually and how, he was getting into it. And Catherine C. was our timekeeper. And Catherine C., we had the best, our conferences was so much fun. I mean, they weren't like anyplace else, but he's doing that. And Catherine C.'s going 10, 10. And then gets a little faster, talks a little faster. And Barbara yells out, I'm going to pee my pants. I'm laughing so hard.
Oh, when she would get she could giggle like crazy.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. It was contagious.
Loved to have a good time.
Yes, she did. She had,
yeah,
that was fun. Oh, well, good. Yeah. And Joseph and her and Barbara probably just watching us now giggling like, oh, those crazy ladies. But Sandy, what I was thinking about, what did you take spiritually from Barb there? I know I can think of a message or two that she said, sort of like the interesting evolutionary experience. Was there anything that stuck out in your mind about what she taught or what her underlying message was? Anything meaningful that you'd like to share?
Well, what I want to share is I want to thank you all for these memories, because as I sit here and we share these memories, it brought back more memories to me. Like I said, the Shar, I said, I'm thinking of stories all week and I'm not really thinking of anything. That's a long time ago. Okay. I did this a long time ago. Yeah. So, but I remembered that I actually have furniture, outdoor furniture that she gave me. All right. That is permanent. This is like high-end aluminum furniture. Okay. And I've had it redone a couple times. And so it's on my back porch. Wow. So, and I got to know Carla's daughters quite a bit. I mean, not Carla the most. Mm-hmm. But there was another daughter who, and I forget her name. I got her cat from her, my first Persian cat.
Oh, wow.
She gave me her cat.
Melanie?
I don't remember, but the partner of this daughter was a doctor and couldn't take care of the cat. So I got it. And that was
Terry and Jean. Mm-hmm.
That was back in the late 80s. So I'm just saying that, and I did a lot of hanging out with Barbara. And speaking of working with her, basically one year I fell in my classroom and I wasn't working. So I was like out of work, and so she had me come over, and I helped create the directory.
Oh,
So I would sit in the library with all those books, and I'd be typing in all these people, So, and I think that was like in the late 90s or 99 or 2000.
I remember those directories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was getting that started. And Barbara was just a person that was good for advice, but she was adamant on whether she helped you with a perspective. She didn't tell you what to do. In other words, she helped you look at things so that you could figure it out. All right.
Right.
And I remember even to her doing, and I can't tell you a story from it, but she did a past life reading, like with me. And these are just all things that are like blurs, but so I hung out with her a lot. I used to go over early for these astrology meetings and get the refreshments together. So I hung out with her quite a bit. And I remember when I retired from teaching, she invited me to attend a board meeting. I walked in and she nominated me for the board. I left those on the board. I mean, geez,
She was known for that. She was known for that trick.
Yeah, that was tricky.
Yeah, I went to a meeting, Sandy, and then I'm president. I didn't have that happen.
Exactly. So, but so she was, and the last time I really remember interacting with her was that conference that we had in Gainesville that was at Bob's place. Do you remember that one? How many years ago was that?
That was a long time ago. God, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but that she was still, and I don't even remember, when did she pass?
Lori said 2011, Lori?
Yes.
Thank you, Lori. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, you mentioned
Bob had many conferences in Gainesville, and that was probably between, I think, between 04 and 08, maybe, because Bob passed away the same year that Barbara did. Mm-hmm.
So what conference do you think it was, 04 or 08? What'd you say?
Between 04 and 08, Bob had a few conferences up there. At that time, we were doing, here in Florida, we were doing 2 conferences a year. So we would have one in West Palm, and then we would have one in Gainesville. So he had a number of conferences there in Gainesville.
Yeah, we used to be working at those conferences all the time. I mean, it was really nice. So I'm just saying that Barbara, I had a lot of interaction with Barbara. I just, I don't think it was all official though, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, that's the special kind, just to hang and get to know her and be a friend. She was a friend to all of us, and that's so awesome. And yeah, you all bring up 2 conferences a year. Wow. And, those things, we all, I think, were conference hounds. We worked our tails off at those conferences, and, but they were always fun, and we had a good turnout, and they were a blast. And she was a great motivator and got people involved. You mentioned the directory, which I wish that it was nice to have that physical directory, the book. But I also remembered, and I know Peg, you and Lori were part of this process with those manuals, not the manuals, the
new Space Spring.
No, not the Day Spring, the big book that we did, ceremonies and services. And it was like this thick, and we had every page all over Barb's house. It was like 300 pages maybe. And we had to, and the binder was this big, and we had to, oh my God, that was torture. But we got it done. And now, when you think back in the technology, and now you can just put that out in a PDF and get it in like, nothing. But, we had a lot of great things. We had 2 conferences. We had She had a very active, supportive group of ministers who helped her do things like the books and the day spring. That was actually did it go out
Yeah.
every other month? Every other month,
Every
I
month.
think.
Once
A
a month.
magazine.
I
a month.
thought.
Once a
Once a
month.
month.
Okay. And that was a project in itself to keep
In
that going.
paper, in
In
paper.
paper, yeah.
Well,
So
your daughter was a printer. That was
Yeah,
another
well, that-
daughter.
that
That's the
didn't
third.
hurt.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the third one. That's
when
right.
I look back at thinking of that, we used to have a newsletter with the Palm Beach Center for Living. Judy Ray actually did this. We had a template, it was about 12 pages. We sent it out every other month. We had to literally cut and paste everything in it. And then we had a mailing list of 3,500 people. So we had to we had the not-for-profit mailing thing. So we had volunteers in there that would have to do all that and organize it. I mean, I have to tell you that, technology has advanced in a lot of good ways, because that was not only a lot of work, but it was also so expensive. And so that memory just popped in my mind, but I do remember the day springs, and she had a lot going on, and how she managed it, just, seeing how she really pulled that off was terrific. So yeah, Arlene.
Did any of her daughters become ministers?
Yeah.
Yes, Carla
They-
was.
Carla was. I
Yeah.
remember Carla's the only one that I ever met. So look what
Melanie
my mug says.
Melanie.
Melanie was, and her daughter-in-law were, Ollie.
Make things happen.
There you go. That's good.
Mark, are you here?
So I want to share just a little, a couple of things that they just, it's funny how they stick with you. And she was talking two things when we were taking classes. One thing was about letting go of your past. Don't carry the story of your past into the present. Be present and this and that. And so she was talking about, well, if you had a terrible childhood and you didn't have pretty clothes, or you didn't have any money, or you didn't have any friends, she said, just make up another one. She goes, it's the same thing. She goes, just make up a childhood where you had lots of friends and pretty clothes and all the money you needed. And I'm like, that really stuck with me, because, we get stuck into our stories and then we let those go through our entire life. And one thing I thought was also funny was when she talked about going to the grocery store, and if you would just send a little love to those chickens at the meat counter, they'd perk up for you, like, buy me. She said that, everything is energy. So if you just send it love. So, next time you're at the meat counter, she said, you can see them. They just get bigger when you start sending them love. So Peg, you're shaking your head. What can you think of that Barb said that maybe hit with you?
Oh,
How about cancel clear?
Yeah,
Oh,
cancel clear. Yeah, there you go.
Cancel clear.
Yeah.
what was that?
Cancel
was that?
clear.
Cancel.
My dog
clear.
is barking.
Oh.
I've got a mute.
You know what the other thing is? Was she a computer whiz?
She was
That
pretty
she-
darn good at it. Yeah.
She was up all night on her computer.
Emailing us.
Yeah, emailing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
So
calling me at
Peg,
work when she
I
had
wanted
problems.
to get back to Peg. Peg, what were you saying a minute ago?
No, and then she would have problems. She'd get stuck at night and she'd call me at work. But she was very good with the computer. She was very good. She was excellent with money.
Oh,
She
yeah.
didn't come from a lot. She came from not too much, but she knew how to, even with I think every conference we did, we made money as long as Barbara had a say so in it. We would sell a lot of product, talk about those books, man. I remember traveling with her to Kansas City and taking a big box and putting it on the plane, the big box of all those books.
Yeah.
God bless Mary McCoy. Mary McCoy said, Peg, we're going to mail them back. I don't give a shit how much it costs.
Yeah.
It's all right.
That's great. So, yeah, Arlene.
Uh-oh, I just had a senior moment. Did she and the other Barbara get along all the time?
Oh,
they?
fabulously. Yeah, I think that they, right, Lori? I mean,
Best
they both
friends.
had they were best friends. They each played their role beautifully. And this ministry would not have happened without the both of them. I see
Right.
so much that they both had such a key role in bringing it together. And yeah, and I would think we were speaking to Barbara not too long ago, Selwa, and she was saying how they were good friends and they were different, but they were good buddies for sure.
So they didn't live near each other,
At one time they did.
They
At
did.
one time they did. Yeah. So I do want to, Lori, what about you? Any thoughts as we wind down that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the ministers really understood how intuitive she was on many levels. And she was very in touch with her spirit guides and angels that surrounded her, which I think really helped her stay within her heart, because she loved all of us as her children. And even though she could be cantankerous, as they say sometimes, it was always with the greatest degree of love for her children. If she needed to discipline someone, it was always with love. But like children, sometimes, we need to be straightened up.
Yeah.
And, but she did it with such grace and compassion and love for everyone in the ministry. And that is a big part that attracted people to the ministry.
Mhm.
And how it really expanded and grew our membership over her time. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, amen. And you know what we're really, focusing on now with the ADL is to really bring the heart into it and to bring this, these experiences that we have are such treasures, and we want the new ministers coming in to experience ADL that we experienced, and the love and to know Barb and what she brought to it, and both Barbs, and really how blessed we are to have this. It is amazing. So Arlene, would you like to make a closing comment or
Yeah,
statement?
I was going to say, years ago, when I still have my book somewhere, and I was talking to Peg a long time ago and said, when I went to a convention, there were all these young people, couples. It was fabulous. And I said, God, we've expanded, but these people don't know the story. They should have the story of ADL in the books. They should be an insert inside the book, or I don't know if the new books, because
Yeah.
that's what's missing, is how it all happened.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe.
we've got that. That's why we're
Yeah.
doing the founders page on the website, Arlene.
Yeah.
But it is a
I
good
know.
idea. It is
Yeah.
a good idea possibly to add that to the books. Absolutely. That's a great idea.
Or
And
to show, or just say, go to the website to see
Right.
the.
Yeah. Well, we got lots of things we can do for sure. Peg, what would you like to close your thoughts about Barb with?
Well, the ministry was it was so simple. And really, when I joined, 2000, I joined, we worked on conferences. We made decisions. And basically what we were doing, Barbara Hanshaw wanted a building fund. Everything was about building and having do you all remember that? She wanted a brick and mortar place, she said, because when you own property, then that brings you up, like that makes you something, that makes you, viable. You need to own property. She believed in owning property. So I don't know. I think this year coming up, I want to do that for Barbara so bad, guys. I can't even, I just think that we ought to start thinking about, even Barbara Sella said, spiritual retreat center, someplace where we can all go. And
Okay.
I'll support it 100%. I'll work
We
my
can
ass
rent
off for it.
places for now,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
we
right.
do now. Yeah, we do now, but I get the whole, and we do have property. Thank God. Thank you, Charlotte, for that. But,
Yeah.
so this, I don't know if we'll ever get to that dream, but that's
Well,
my
hey,
wish for
and we'll just
Barbara.
put it out there and ask Barb to guide us. But yes, beautiful. And great. If it's meant to be, it'll be. Barb. Okay,
spiritually, when
Sandy.
I'm sorry, I was going to say spiritually, when you own the property, you have, so about learning, asking permission when you don't own, but if you own the property, that gives you that much more power in the area. See, but when you rent a place, you are a temporary owner, so you have the rights. But still, it's good to ask permission. So I know she always did that. And we did have a fund. We did start a fund,
Yeah.
just
Well,
never got
it's still,
played.
yeah, we need to, I know, we got to look into that because I think there's some money that we should be looking into for a building for sure. So, but Sandy, what are your closing thoughts about Barbara?
Well, I'm very grateful that you did this today, Charlotte. Thank you so much. It brings fond memories of Barbara. And I just like to take a few deep breaths and center with Barbara. If that's what we could, if we could do that. So, and just be grateful for her and her lessons. So we could take a few deep breaths. Thank you, Barbara, for gifting us with your presence and your teachings and your love. In the highest degree of love, so be it.
It was beautiful, and definitely I feel her presence this whole time. And thank you all so much for taking the time to do this. It's gonna be, I think, a memory that a lot of people will. There you go, Lori. Thank you for that lovely
Whoa.
picture. And just one last thing. When I was near the end of Barbara's life, this is still something that I would love to. It still haunts me in a way. Her daughter, Carla, had asked me, she said, Mom wants to see you. She was dying in the hospital. And so I went to the hospital, and Barbara, at that point, she, when with ALS, which incidentally, that's what she died of, you have your mental faculties, but she didn't have the ability to speak or to communicate. And so she was trying so hard to communicate something. So I would just say, Barbara, whatever it is, come to me anytime and tell me what it is that you were trying to get across to us. And we're all open and willing to listen to her guidance and her wisdom. We know she's here with us, just as we're so blessed to have Dr. Selwa still here on the earth plane. But what a blessing ADL is. You guys are a blessing in my lives. And hopefully people will enjoy this. And those who don't know Barbara Hanshaw, now they know her a little better. So thanks, everybody. Many blessings. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And feel free to share it with your friends. Namaste.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, guys. Peace and love.
Love you.
Thank
Hang
you.
on 1 minute. Hang on.
Okay, Arlene's got one thing to show us. Okay, this is the grand finale, folks. Don't hold on to your popcorn. The fireworks are coming. Okay, what is it?
Wait. Where is it? There
There
it is.
you go. That
Beautiful.
Lori made
Lori.
that. Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful, Lori.
Yeah, isn't that
Beautiful.
gorgeous? I
Wait,
have
wait,
one
wait.
that has Peg gifted
Okay.
me with one. Okay, everybody.
Wait,
Peace
wait.
and love.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.